Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is James LaFleur, and he is a senior plan advisor with Sentinel Group. Welcome, James.
Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, James, give us a little bit of your career journey and kind of what made you get into retirement planning.
Yep. Yeah. So I've been working with retirement plans for about 20 years, 20 plus years or so. I worked for some big firms, some small firms. My career kind of started, I went to business school undergrad, and then I kind of worked my way up through kind of investments into the retirement side. When you work on the investment side, you end up in the retirement side, I guess, think of it that way. And had some, very good clients over the years. As I mentioned, worked for very big firms, very small firms, all different types of plans too. And what keeps me going in the role is really just the fact that there's always a crisis, right? The retirement planning space is constantly evolving and much different than it was for our previous generations. And we have to be, I'm part of. I hope I'm part of the solution for providing participants, retirees, businesses, plan sponsors, everyone involved with a better picture in the future. So making sure people have those years of their lives, safe and rewarding for themselves, and that starts with having good programs and good policies.
Kind of for business owners, what are some of the strategies that you see that people aren't using that may be more effective for them as business owners when it comes to retirement planning?
The thing is, business owners, there's kind of, I think of it two ways. One is, or two programs that probably take advantage of. One would be having a 401k plan, or a 403b, depending if you're a non-for-profit or whatever type of plan you need to have, but a deferred compensation plan where your employees can put away a chunk of their paycheck. Hopefully, you can afford to provide them with some type of match or some of incentive for being in that program, and be able to save for retirement, because the power of compounding in those plans is pretty real. Putting away even a couple $1,000s a year over a long period of time will help add to the nest egg of retirement planning for those people. The other one I'd say is, for a lot of small business owners, what they don't realize is they could actually do what's called a cash balance plan, which would be a defined benefit, more of a defined benefit, so more of a it's kind of somewhat of a hybrid between a DC plan and a traditional DB plan when I think about with pensions. But a cash balance plan can be very rewarding too. One, for the ability to put money away for yourself and for your employees, but also there's some good tax benefits behind having one that can really help kind of steer money away for retirement.
So, Secure 2.0 Act has, also given some tax credits and other deductions to the business owners for creating plans if they haven't had one. Do you see many business owners using that as a reason to get started, or what do you see?
I think it's helping some degree. I think a lot of what I see more is when plans are starting, new plans that are starting, I'd say, the catalyst is that it's never been easier to start a plan. It's much different than it was even 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now you can start a plan with, a couple people. All the service providers will line up to be there. You can have a decent program to basically put away, tax deferred money, like I mentioned. That's a big catalyst of it. And also now, because they're becoming more I wouldn't say required, but your competition out there is providing these programs. There is a current certain notion of when you go give your benefit package and say we provide health insurance and dental and life and accidental and all this type of insurance, you also say, well, we also provide a 401k plan, and here's our match, here's the money, here's how you can save for retirement, and here's also what we'll help you do. That's also part of the equation of trying to make sure your benefit lineup is competitive versus the industry. So I see those as catalysts, but the taxes do come into play here and there.
Right. Um, what is some of the common mistakes you see people making when it comes to retirement planning?
When it comes to business owners or just participants in general,
Both, both.
um, you know, the most common we see from business owners is they have a plan, but they hire sometimes the wrong service providers that provide them with not enough fiduciary oversight to the plan. So what I mean by that is ultimately as a business owner, you're responsible for this plan. You're offering it. You're a fiduciary. You need to have a named fiduciary on the plan. And sometimes when you partner with people who don't push you in that direction to understand what you're eligible for, what you should be responsible for, you end up with basically poorly run plans, bad investment lineups, just bad participation rate, bad education. Hiring, for example, hiring a firm that doesn't provide individual education and financial planning to the participants can be a real, in my opinion, a disservice, right? You have all these people you're telling them to use the plan, but then you give them absolutely no um, one-on-one attention for what they should be doing. I mean, I mean, these people have other day jobs, right? They're not, they
Right.
have other things to do. They're mechanics, they're lawyers, they're plumbers, they're wall plasters. They're not sitting there thinking about making sure that all their money's in the right place or doing the right thing. That's kind of a big area, and then just a big area of not being a good fiduciary. But as I mentioned, just we see a lot of plans who are they just don't paper their files properly, and then it just takes one rogue employee to say something, and next thing the DOL's calling you, which happens from time to time. But our clients, for the most part, are we're documenting everything, keeping everything in line, and making sure things are run smoothly.
So, kind of going back to your point here, lots of times, when you see these companies that are out there that, oh, quick, easy setup for the 401ks and other things. And you're talking about, that the owner still has fiduciary responsibility. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Because, with that fiduciary responsibility also comes, the reporting that needs to be done. And I think that lots of times, like you're saying, people don't understand it. And, as a business owner, we're doing so many other things.
Right.
And we don't know, that hey, we have a fiduciary responsibility. We're supposed to be able to, or we're supposed to do so much education and other things like that, plus filing. Can you talk about when somebody's looking to hire somebody to handle the investments for their 401k and stuff like that? What are some of the things that they need to be looking at to make sure that they're picking the right company?
Yeah, I'd say that make sure the company has um, a good record retention system or process in place. So mean by that is make sure they're providing you with meeting minutes, making sure you're having meetings with them, making sure that they're keeping track of everything that help you. You should also be doing it, but to help you make sure you have all your ducks in a row and papers filed, make sure they're in agreement with that. Don't agree to say firms that might come out there and say, oh, the meeting minutes are, we're happy to do it, but it's your responsibility. No, that firm should be taking their responsibility too, and also giving you meeting minutes and writing
Right.
them up and keeping them a file for them. Making sure there's a centralized repository. A lot of firms will provide you with a drive or some type of cloud drive to keep that stuff out there so you don't lose it. Make sure you have that because if your systems go down and you only have it in one place, that could be bad, right? Make sure the firm has qualified people who are doing the compliance side of it. So what I've seen a lot in this business is firms will be out there saying they want to be an advisor to the plan, but that what they really mean is they just want to be able to pick funds for you. Well, that's great, and maybe they are good at that. But like, there's a lot more to a retirement plan. There's a whole compliance side to keep you out of trouble with how much money you put in and what your testing is going to be and what your how you do certain things when somebody gets divorced or somebody wants money out because they're retiring. There's certain rules and laws and everything you do around that, and make sure that the firm you're working for actually knows all that to keep you out of trouble, to make sure that you're not making a mistake by signing off on something you can't. And then obviously make sure they're up on the speed. As I mentioned, the industry's changing with Secure 2.0 and who knows, Secure 3.0 coming down the line. There's a lot of new benefits and also, penalties if you don't do certain things by certain dates. So make sure that firm is bringing you every, not necessarily every quarter, but on a regular basis, what those new changes need to be and what your responsibilities are around those.
Yeah, I think many times, you know, I know with the 5500s that need to be filed, we have
Right.
people come to us all the time, ask us to file them, and we tell them that's not something we do. We
Right,
do,
exactly.
plenty of business taxes and personal taxes, but the
Right.
5500s, to me, that's more of a specialty area. So it's, know that the actuarials or whoever that you're going to use to do this, will provide that as a service to you also. It's not something that your typical, CPA is going to do on your behalf.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Um, where do you see, again, retirement plans have evolved over the years. Our, grandparents, and then others that may work for the federal government or state government have pensions, and those have kind of gone away. You talked a little bit about the cash balance plan and how that's, really a pension, that you're setting up for yourself and your employees. But where do you see this evolving? Because many times, we see things in the media every once in a while talking about, that they want the government to come in and manage your retirement and so forth. Kind of where do you see us moving to?
I see. I don't think we'll ever get to. Um, I'll see where I don't think we're going to get to. I don't think we'll ever see a government run like massive deferred comp plan. I just think that you get people. We've met with them before and in down the Beltway there. It's always rumored about it, but once they realize how complex and complicated it would be, suddenly they stop talking about it, and that's been
Right,
going on for 25 years, 30
right,
years. So
right,
I don't see that ever happening. I think the private system works well. I think the real regulators will understand that the private system works well. We have with the as far as setting up plans and having plans and compliance of plans. Do I see? Yeah, so that being said, I think the 401k will continue to be the 401k or the 403b, whatever, deferred compensation plan will be the standard way of saving for retirement. Um, for the next 40, 50 years. I think that's just how it's going to be. Cash balance plans or regular DB plans might trickle in here and there as they kind of redefine them. I don't see them ever coming back as much as they were back 100 years ago or 75 years ago. I just don't see that happening for the private sector. The public sector is a little different for police and teachers and stuff like that. That's a little different world, but um, I do think that they'll continue to um, skirt around this means-based idea of you have so much money in your 401k plan. For example, do you have you didn't pay you didn't pay taxes on the pre-tax dollars, and next thing you know, if you have too much money in the plan when you get to retirement, do they actually does the government actually say make a special tax rule for some of that money, so you actually have to pay twice or whatever or something around that? I do think that could happen if you put too much money in Roth. They start saying no, there's actually an asset tax on that money because we need the revenue down the road for the very wealthy. You're already seeing that a little bit with things like in Secure 2.0, where the catch-up dollars have to be in Roth because they want the money now versus
right.
deferring it. So I do think they'll keep playing around with that and kind of make it so that wealthier people don't get this quite the same tax benefits. And Social Security, of course, will be there. They'll never probably be able to get rid of it. It'll always be there as an income distribution policy to shift money around. But it will be even more and more means based in the future, meaning that if you make more money, you're going to put more money in. Your return on that money you get back is going to be worse and worse, and that's how it has to happen because of um, just the dollars they need to support it. Just they're not going to be able to pay out the same formula for the somebody who has a retirement income of 200,000. They're going to have to reduce that Social Security benefit by more and make it less rewarding for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, looking at that, it's like, with the baby boomers all retiring and so many more of them, drawing on Social Security right now, I see that, they're really going to increase, the amount, what the Social Security wages are. I see that increasing. Um, if you got to talk to your 18-year-old self, what would you tell yourself about investing in retirement?
I would tell my 18-year-old self to take on more risk. Yeah, I grew up in the time period of 9/11, the great financial crisis. I mean, I lived through all those years, right? And there's a certain notion individuals my age were actually more risk averse because we saw the world crumble right in between us. I was in college when 9/11 happened, and yeah, I mean, I would take on, knowing what I know now, I would take on more risk in my investing because I think that a lot of people in my generation were a little more scared to invest because we saw the dot-com bust, and then we saw the global financial crisis, and then we saw, we saw all these things happen. We saw wars and stuff like that. I would tell my 18-year-old self that equities for the long term is really the game when it comes to saving, compounding. I'm fortunate to have done a lot of things right, but I probably could have taken on more risk. If there's anything I could have done better, I could have taken on more risk when I was younger, which would have helped my planning.
Right.
I never was one of these people who shopped around for a position with a DB plan, or a lot of people I know my age were, I want to be a police officer because they have a great retirement plan. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
I'm not looking for that. Like, I'm looking for just a industry I want to work in, and I'll figure out how to save around it. I also wish perhaps I had started a 529 plan when I was younger and put it in my own name, and I would have been able to save more money for my son's college. I started when they were born, so you actually could start at any time and just transfer your name over to it. So if you're planning on having kids, and you might as well do that if you have the money sitting around. I could have done that. That would have helped me at 18 or 20 in my 20s too.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think one of the things that some people are afraid that they're going to overfund the 529 plan.
Right.
I help do some college planning with people, and we haven't had anybody yet
Yeah.
who's been overfunded. But even if you are, the good thing with the Secure 2.0 and everything else is that you can roll that money into a Roth for for your kids. Got to keep it. It has to be in existence for 15 years. So if you started when you were younger, it would definitely have that 15 years in there.
Right.
All right, I want to move away from retirement plans a bit. Let's talk about your you being an inventor and an app developer. Tell us tell us some about your better budget.
Better budget. Yeah, better budget is actually a pretty cool idea. I haven't been able to I have the what's called the use cases and the use tests made for it. And I have a prototype that worked for a while that I think we kind of there's a bug in it right now. The idea was basically to make an app that would help people not just look at dollars when they were coming into your checking account to pay your bills, right? That's how every budget app works. It's like, oh well, here's your money coming in, and here's your money going out, and therefore you must be on track. Meanwhile, you have like this giant you know problem in the future that you're not really thinking about because
Right.
you're not putting money away for that. Or you have something that's like depreciating, it's actually costing you money to even own. So some of it was like, how do we make it so the math is more real term thinking about it. And then also, how do we make it so people understand that perhaps sometimes buying something, also give them a tool to understand if they were buying something or having to make a decision on something, they could understand all the costs around it or more of the cost around it. And the examples, I think are like, even paying for private school, right? You pay for private school, it's expensive. My son goes to a Catholic school in the area here. And there's a cost to that, but there's also some offsets to that, right? The offsets are, well, we don't spend nearly as much money on clothes on him because he has a uniform, right? Like,
Right.
know, you
Right.
know, he basically gets homework every night. What's the value of that homework every night? And you could add statistics in there. Kids who do homework every night are more likely to get this money for college, right? So there's kind of an element of like it's costing me, $7,500 a year to send him to this private school, but like the $7,500 is probably actually worth it in the long run because he's well more likely to get something for college, some type of money from the school, merit-based program down the road from a university to go to someday. So there's a better budget. The idea was real time and also better decision making. There was kind of two avenues of it. Um, I'd like to get off the ground. It's just been you have to kind of think through how complicated you want to make it be so the average person could actually use it. But the
Right.
idea was to build a better, that's why it's called better budget, a better app than just cash flow in, cash flow out.
Yeah, I agree. I think so many times people need that help, when it comes to, buying a car,
Oh yeah, yeah,
looking
absolutely.
at, the what is it? Rocket money or whatever out
Yeah,
there going through
yeah.
with all of the and again, they're looking at what you have and
Yep.
all the subscriptions and stuff like that. Because I think so many times we're not looking at that stuff. Your homeowner's insurance, because that's taken out through your mortgage. You probably never look at it. It's
Yep.
just things like that I think that what you're trying to build is definitely going to help people with. Looking at so many times looking at cars and stuff and people getting loans on cars, and it's
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
how long do you keep your car? And
Right.
it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna say, what's that break even point on that versus if you lease? And there's a lot of programs out there that say they help you decide lease versus buy. And I've, messed with some of those to help clients, but I don't think they're very good.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I think if you're able to get something like that, to have all those pieces to it, it's going to be very impactful for people for sure.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of the car situation comes up a lot too because people buy cars and say, "Oh, I can afford this car."
Yeah,
Well, there is a certain cost of ownership to any car, right? And a Lexus cost of ownership is less than a BMW.
right,
So you can't quantify that. Like you can look at what it costs, and then also your point, how long are you going to have that car for? What's
right.
the trade-in value going to be when you go to get rid of it if you own it? And those are types of things we were trying to build in the software to say, if you buy that car, it might only cost you this in a payment, but it's actually costing you this much because
Right.
that car is being depreciated every year. And 5 years from now, that dollar is worth this.
Well, and then also taking a look at what the average ticket price is for repairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's something that lots of times people don't look
Oh,
at.
absolutely.
It's like, oh, I like this car. It's a good car. It's like, yeah, but every time you take it in to have it serviced, it's going to cost you $1,000 or whatever the number is. You got to
Yeah.
take that into play also.
Yep. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. One other thing. Tell me about the pizza space.
Pizza Space. Pizza Space actually has a prototype that was built a little bit during COVID. It's in my garage, and I've had a couple of meetings with angel investors about it, but it really is like what's actually the company or what we're actually trying to make. It's basically a table that holds your pizza when you're in a restaurant. The idea was to sell it to restaurants to have a think of it as like a compartment to put the pie into.
Okay.
Because the worst thing is when you go out to eat, especially when you have kids, is you're at the table, you got the pizza propped up, or you got the side thing going,
Right.
and you're in a big city, like there's no room to put a pizza. And I love pizza. We probably,
Right.
it's like I want to. So we were trying to, it's called the pizza space because we were trying to make space for the pizza better. So one idea, what the prototype right now is a table that has a heat holding drawer where you basically put the pie inside and you
Okay.
can see it from the top because it's a plexiglass non-fogging um, clear, transparent. We actually were using like a plexi plastic right now, but we could use glass. And it basically, you can see the pie, and then say, I want to slice that. I want to slice it out with your family, and easily get that slice out without knocking over 6 drinks and
Right.
everything like that. So that's kind of the idea. So
Or
people
have the
laugh at
kids,
it, but it's like
or yeah,
if you
or
have
have
little
the
kids,
kids
you're
going
trying to,
in. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're knocking over drinks trying to get a slice of pizza in the north end of Boston. You'll understand why. Yeah,
Right.
put this pizza, we're not eating the rest of it, like somewhere more convenient. But we've been playing with, is it a drawer? Does it pop up? We've tried different mechanisms for that. And right now the prototype is a drawer, but we've also played around with having like a one that you like I would press down, it would come up, I get a slice out, put it back down.
Right. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. It's one of those things I always find it interesting in talking with people about, everybody always says it's like, hey, you got a good idea, and it's like, oh, I wish I would have, type
Yeah.
thing. But you're venturing out there and not just sitting back. So that's pretty cool. So James, what have I not asked you? You wish I had?
Um, I think the only thing I'd say is just for going back to the business owners. I think with the business owners is just the we sound the main point here would be is you want to have a program, some type. Um, you want that program to be the most important thing would be to be well run, be a good fiduciary, hire good vendors. And what I mean by hire good vendors, hire not only reputable firms that are doing things, but also make sure your direct team you're getting is capable, knows what they're doing, meaning they know the compliance, they know the investments, they know what they're up to. Those are kind of the main important parts. If you can do those two things, and hopefully you can afford to provide a sort of a match or incentive to be in there, you're going to have a successful retirement program. Meet regularly, do the right thing, be engaged with the program, make sure you support it internally. I've met too many business owners too who they have plans and then they leave it to the HR director, and the HR director is doing 9 different things. They never talk about the plan. And every year we're talking to them about why the participation rate, number of people in the plan is 30%, when it easily could be 60, 70%. These people are just not being educated with the plan. And we obviously offer to help that at our firm, but they have to actually help schedule those calls and help schedule those on sites. They can't just say, "Great, we agree with you." It's like we have,
Right.
be a business partner with that. Actually, we'll any firm like ours will help you meet with the participants, help them talk about what's going on, educate them on everything, hopefully get their engagement. But you also have to give us the time of day to do that.
Right. Right. Definitely. Um, so James, if people like what they hear, how can they reach out to you?
You can find me on Sentinel's website or on LinkedIn. James LaFleur. I'm not the YouTuber. I'm the other guy.
Not yet, anyway, right?
If you just Google, James LaFleur Sentinel Group, I'm out there. My email should be out there. I know my email is on LinkedIn, so people can find me that way. I think I actually put my phone number out there too. I'm pretty in this day and age. I figure I wouldn't get my phone number or my email anyway, so here it is. Just you
Right.
don't have to search very hard for it.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Gary. Really appreciate it too.
Sure. Hey, this week our guest was James LaFleur, and he's a senior plan advisor with the Sentinel Group. And I'll see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.